Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. We are just in the midst of letting people in, so if you could just hang on for a minute. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this webinar this morning. Participants are still coming in, but I think we can start. My name is Fatima Suleiman. I'm from the University of KwaZulu-Natal. And today we are looking at AI and higher education. We are all aware of the fact that increasingly AI is being used by both students and staff, but there's an increasing digital divide between what students can do with it and what staff and academics are able to do and understand about AI. So we're going to unpack some of these issues in this particular webinar this morning. And I'm joined by panelists from both South Africa, UKZN and DUT, as well as from China. And you will see some familiar faces on this webinar, but I'm going to let them introduce themselves as they begin to present on the work on AI and higher education. We're going to start firstly with Professor Anisa Vahed. I am going to ask that if you have questions that you either raise your hands in the discussion sessions after all the presenters have presented on their work. If you have any pressing questions, please put it in the Q&A. Then we will be able to address those as well in the discussion session. The reason we ask you to raise your hands is that then you can be unmuted to be able to address your questions to the panel. So over to you, Anisa. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Fatima, for the introduction. I'm just going to share my screen very quickly. Can you hear me, Fatima? So I know the others would also hear me.
Yes, I can hear you, and you need to tell people a little bit about yourself as well, please.
I will do that. I am going to do that now. I'm just going to get my PPT on, and I'm going to introduce myself shortly. Just put this on slideshow. Okay. Hi, my name is Anisa. I'm from Xi'an Jiayotong Liverpool University in Suzhou, China. I was formerly in the Durban University of Technology, where I'm currently holding an honorary research associate position for the past year. So it gives me absolute pleasure to be sharing some of my experiences about this digital divide. We are dealing in the era of AI and curriculum. So my perspective is from an educational development perspective. I'm an education developer. That's my position in XJTLU, the acronym for Xi'an Jiayotong Liverpool University. So let's begin. I'm just going to. So everyone has heard the word authentic assessment and ethical practice. So I thought as a point of departure, let's identify some of the components of authentic assessment and how is this related to this whole discussion on AI. Literature and many other recent scholars have written about authentic assessment is based upon being realistic, engaging students with problems and important questions that are relevant in everyday life. It's about engaging them in project-based learning that allows them to cognitively challenge these tasks, challenge them and let them allow them to reach higher levels of thinking and to use that knowledge and process information in various scenarios. And it's also about allowing students as well as teachers to have to develop some sort of evaluative judgment. And by that we mean how can they drive their learning to a point where they can actually judge what they're doing from a quality perspective. So these are some of the debates we've been having back in XJTLU. What is authentic assessment in AI? And in my position as the education developer and the Academy of Future Education, we realized that we first needed to unpack the spectrum of AI-powered technologies because the curriculum seemed to be the focus of the discussion in the university currently. So XJTLU is on a special project where we talk about AI enhanced modules, and they've invited they've identified those professions who are currently dealing with AI. I come from a Sino-foreign university, so XJTLU is different from the universities in South Africa. We don't have where we are familiar with the traditional research universities We're familiar with the Comprehensive and then University of Technology. XJTLU is a transnational university, meaning that we are in partnership with the Liverpool. So the students come out with Liverpool degree. So in that way, we needed to firstly explain what is the spectrum of AI-powered technologies. And I'm sure most of you are dealing with this in different levels. As you can see in front of you, the screen, AI is used in adaptive learning platforms, used in grading, it's used in virtual reality laboratories. But more recently, I think the UNESCO documents very nicely encapsulates the role of AI and how various academics globally are using it. And this is what UNESCO has come up with. And I think it serves as a very nice guide for teachers as well as students on how AI can be used, the various roles that they identified. And I'm not going to go through the whole list, but I'm more than happy to share the PPT in front of you later. And most importantly, back in XJTLU, where we want the students to engage with industry, so very much focused on project-based learning and problem-based learning. And so we use many principles of design-based thinking. The students and the teachers often have to become co-designers in curriculum. But that's the point. Coming into a university, dealing with a particular profession doesn't mean that every academic understands the nature of curriculum. And so what is manifesting is the problem being AI. And we then decided that, okay, as education developers, how do we help teachers? And in the process, teachers help the students deal with these areas of tension. And we have identified that AI is not the issue. AI is manifesting as an issue because curriculum understandings are lacking. Most of the colleagues in XJTLU and certain universities come in because they have a specialized field of understanding, be it engineering, be it health sciences, be it computer science. But what they lack, and as unlike curriculum designers or education developers who are embedded in this language of higher education, is curriculum design. And so in curriculum design, there's two things we've identified. And so this basic is a starting point to kind of start triggering colleagues in the university. At what level are you with AI? How is AI being used? How do we bring the student and the teacher in an era of AI to work constructively? So we talk about how we take a spectrum of practices, your various AI-powered technologies, against how is that being engaged in terms of depthness of understanding within your curriculum? And this goes back to three basic elements. Are you at the basic level where you're using AI as a virtual buddy, beginning to integrate AI into the teaching? Are you at the intermediate level where you're using it creatively by extending the student's knowledge by introducing an AI enhanced component, be it a learning and assessment component? Or are you at that advanced level? And there are courses, particularly in computer science, in entrepreneurship, where students are actually now beginning to design things with the industry. And a very, very relevant one in the context of the China England partnership is how students are developing games and how these games are then being moved towards entrepreneurship. And that's at a very advanced levels. So when we started off in this AI curriculum discussion, we put this picture out there and we asked academics, okay, at which point are you? And can your module then be moved to a level that enables you to allow the students to start engaging? Let's make no mistake. There are various arguments and various resistance, may I say, resistance using AI because some are very embedded in the traditional ways of thinking. AI is certainly not traditional. And you and I know this because it's kind of telling you, okay, how do we move away from the traditional practices and how do we start creatively engaging students and teachers to work as co-designers, especially in project-based learning where industry then comes part of the curriculum. And so we told them, choose the level you are. Certainly, you're not going to be addressing all levels in one module or subject, but there are certain levels that you want to kind of consider. And if you're already doing AI at a basic or intermediate level, can that be moved up to a higher level? And so that's our starting point in terms of a matrix that you see in front of you is what is the spectrum of practice? How do you start engaging in terms of depthness of learning using AI? So we started digging into the curriculum structures. Curriculum is not a language, as I mentioned, that that colleagues are familiar with. And so as an education developer in X-Ray TLU, the schools that I'm been dealing with is working closely with industry. And we also have a model. It's called the integrative education model. And this integrative education module is basically a fancy word that means transdisciplinary projects that go beyond their profession and projects that enable a holistic development of the student. So we've asked academics, if you are going to use it, at which level are you using it? Are you using it at a teacher helper level? Are you using it as a learning activity? Or are you using it as a teacher helper learning activity as well as assessment? Now, these levels are important because it goes back to the basic fundamentals of curriculum understandings. And what was very clear is that the word AI was often, if I may be bold enough to say this, is seducing academics from the core purpose of the curriculum. So the technology is there to supplement the module. It's not there to replace the learning outcome. So understandings of learning outcome became very, very visible. We had to go back and unpack what is the learning outcome and how is AI in this era helping you, or you're using it to help the students. Some of the projects that are suddenly emerging is a dialogical conversation between the teacher as well as the student. So this whole notion of student as partners is entering the curriculum discussion, where we get the students involved in understanding learning outcomes and assessment. And yes, there are yet again arguments about, is a student sufficient in terms of understanding curriculum? There are different perspectives, but we get the students as partners, we get them involved in the assessment because they're using the technology. In China, it's very different than South Africa. China has a whole host of their own AI tools, and you can imagine we cannot even use WhatsApp as a general thing, or things that are available in South Africa without a VPN. So it becomes a bit complex, but something that China does very well in terms of technological advancements, they are moving far ahead. However, while the technologies may be moving ahead, we need to make sure that the cognitive aspects of the curriculum are not forgotten. And that's where most of the work is currently being concentrated. And so if I take you through a simple a task of where we as a university have gone into integrating AI, we simply went into the schools, and that's what we have at various schools or departments. We asked the various academics to identify the levels of integration, taking note of the figure that I previously showed you. What are the existing integration levels that they are in? And are they going to be developing any AI supported learning outcomes? Is that learning outcome going to influence assessment? And this project has been going on for 3.5 months, and there have been some really good case studies coming out of it. Eventually, the university is going to make a bold move yet again, and they expect close to 90% of the modules, as they call it, to be AI integrated. So the digital divide will then bring in a different angle, and we're trying to scaffold this understanding from years 2, 3, and 4, and as well year 1, but year 1 is quite different. It operates differently to what's happening in year 2. So some of the strategies that we've been using in terms of some of the strategies we have been using in terms of ascertaining what levels, what forms are being integrated into the curriculum, and curriculum is definitely the issue. It's not AI. As I said, AI is manifesting as the issue because the basic fundamentals of curriculum is being forgotten, and that is the learning outcome. What exactly do you want the students to learn? And so these are some of the strategies we've used to for integrating AI into the modules, asking them, so choose which one are you currently doing? If not, could you perhaps use this? Not an easy task by any means. This is just one example of a prompt competition, reflect and improve using ChatGPT. So all of most South Africans are very familiar with ChatGPT. We have a ChatGPT in China. It's called Shipu AI. And as per the university's requirements, we cannot use ChatGPT, but we use Shipu. And so we have to adjust many AI tools in the learning outcomes. Also, what has emerged from my recent workshops with the academics is that aside from the curriculum, or maybe I say part of the curriculum understanding is prompt engineering, a lovely word that often gets missed. And therefore, I put the definition of what is prompt engineering. And it's simply a process of writing, refining, optimizing inputs. In fact, when we are workshopping AI in the curriculum, we talked about prompt engineering because that's a critical departure point, is how importantly are you as a teacher crafting the right instructions to get the desired results. If you as a teacher are not unclear, can then you be ethically in a position to make the decision that the student who's used AI is now at fault or not at fault? Because at this university in XJTLU, we certainly promote AI, but the levels of integration is up to the academic. The Pandora box is open. The students are using it anyway. And so one of the key messages that we are conveying in the university is, fine, how do we get the student as partners to help in the curriculum discussions? And how do we teach students how to prompt? Because that is part of the problem, is that students are using what they know, and academics are between spaces, some who are open to this understanding of AI and others who are still using AI, but in a traditional sense. The reality is AI is toppling assessments. You cannot use the traditional assessments in AI. We all know this. And so if we're going to change it, the one way of changing this in the era of where industry is coming into the university, as well as the university going out to the industry, which is certainly the case in XJTLU, is that we need to change the thinking of how curriculum cannot be inflexible. Curriculum is flexible. And that's one of the challenges we currently face in XJTLU, is that because we're in China and we have this partnership with Britain, we cannot just do curriculum changes overnight. We will have to get the support of our partner in Britain. So it's a process. So we concurrently promoting AI in the teaching of the curriculum. But if it's going to be introduced as part of the assessment, we have done a concurrent process where we expedited the curriculum approval so that things move along. And as you know, the speed of AI is it's phenomenal. Things are moving very quickly, particularly in China with the technology. And so the prompt engineering is the one area of work that we are also currently working with. And as an education developer, I've been using various AI-powered technologies in showing academics how to prompt engineer. I know Fatima is keeping time, and I'm not going to go through all the slides, but the two key points that I wanted to kind of convey. Currently, one of the challenges of not the resistance, maybe resistance, or the uncertainty of engaging in AI is the lack of understanding curriculum structures and the lack of understanding of practice of prompt engineering. And I would say it's time as education developers and teachers to embrace that. And AI is here to stay. We all know that. It's changing. And let's get the students engaged as student and partners in your curriculum discussions. I'm going to stop there, and I look forward to listening to my other colleagues. Thanks, Fatima.
Thank you, Anissa. And it's very interesting work on a global level to see where AI is with other universities and how it's being integrated into the curriculum. I know that there are questions. I would ask you to put your questions in Q&A or hold on to them for the discussion session after all the panelists have spoken. And so I will now hand over. We've learned about an international university and how it's using it in sort of design aspects and curriculum development. I'm going to hand over now to Professor Shalini Singh from the Durban University of Technology, who is also looking at cross-border relationships and the use of AI in curriculum. Shalini, if I can hand over to you.
Thank you, Prof. Suleiman. Can let me know if you can hear me and see my slides.
We can hear you, and your slides are not in presentation mode, but we can see them. There you go. Perfect.
All good to go?
All good to go.
All okay? Right. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, Prof. Suleiman, and good morning, colleagues. I'm Shalini Singh from Durban University of Technology, and I'm no teaching and learning expert, but my interactions with AI emerged when I was teaching research subjects at undergraduate level, and I found that a majority of my class was copying the work from ChatGPT without any declarations. And that's when I got interested in it, of how we could use AI responsibly to the benefit of the student, and at the same time ensuring that learning is taking place. And then a few weeks later, I heard a minister, I think it was the Minister of Telecommunications, talking on television, and it was a documentary, and how industry and the telecommunications industry particularly was looking at hiring and engaging graduates who are savvy with AI. And that's when I realized that, we have to embrace this, and we have to engage with the students and allow them to do this. So we as a university have been having conversations about AI, particularly ChatGPT, how it can be used responsibly, how the student goes about the declarations, both at undergraduate level and at master's and doctoral level. I've attended many seminars in ChatGPT and how it can be used in the classroom. And I'm happy to say that from a South African perspective and all the global seminars that I've attended, that we're all talking the same kind of concepts, the same kind of thinking. And I'm very glad to see that my colleague Anisa is now talking about curriculum development, because I also changed my talk for today to speak about curriculum from a teaching and learning perspective. And I'm so glad that she spoke from the assessment perspective, because on the whole of 2022, all we spoke about was how to engage the student, how to get the student to use ChatGPT responsibly, how the declarations and the disclosures, the disclaimers should be presented. So I'm very glad to see that now we're speaking about curriculum design, and that our conversation has now moved into authentic teaching and learning and assessments.
Shalini,
And
do
I'm
you want to
also
put your video on so people can see you? Sorry.
Oh, okay, can do that. I hope you can see me.
Yes, we
now.
can. Go ahead.
Right. So one of the things that I wanted to also speak about was our acceptance. Just trying to get my slides to move. I see that it's not moving. Let me just try. My slides don't seem to be moving. Does anybody have any idea why that's
Shalini, try and
happening?
use your arrow keys.
On your
That's what
keyboard.
I'm using my keyboard. I've tried the
Alright.
enter and I've tried the arrows, but nothing seems to be happening. And it worked before this.
Escape again and reshare your screen. Not put it on slideshow again. Escape and put on slideshow. Okay. Now try.
That's better. You are a master. Thank you, Anissa. Thank you. So basically, colleagues, we have come to the stage where we can appreciate that, AI is not coming, but that it is indeed here. And we can also appreciate that it can be transformative or it can be disruptive. And I think that my stance is that it can be transformative for the little narrative that I've given you prior to this. And I've also done some personal research with AI in the field that I belong to. And I found that it helped me to do certain activities in terms of continuous improvement in such a short space of time. So for me, I want to punt it being transformative. And I'm going to talk a little bit about curriculum design, student performance, and the management perspective of ChatGPT and AI. I've also highlighted that industry and government support the use of AI. So there's no option now but for us to skill the student in AI to ensure that they remain relevant and that they are competitive in the real world. But some of the things that we have to address, particularly from a South African perspective, I know Anissa has spoken extensively about their infrastructure and their platforms. But from a South African perspective, we need to start addressing our infrastructure, the availability of resources to all, and fair practice among all our students. And then we can start bringing in the authenticity and integrity matters. Now, from a curriculum perspective and a curriculum design perspective, when I was preparing for this, actually I was preparing for a chapter of a book that I'm working with, and I came across this whole new stance on curriculum development, and the whole talk was about reducing the lecturer workload. And that is all one of the biggest struggles that we all have at the moment, is in terms of the workload and how much of work we've got to do. Another thing that was punted very strongly in this was to stimulate individualized learning, because all our learners are very different. They have very different skills. They come from very, very different backgrounds. So there are programs that are able to profile your student and predict exactly what that student requires in terms of them understanding what the content is, how they engage with it, and what they take away from it. And these are called intelligent tutors. I was also very happy to see in Anissa's assessment strategy that she was looking at predictive analysis, intelligent tutoring, automated grading, and personalized courses, because this curriculum design with the package that I'm talking about talks about the same kind of thinking, but I'm no expert. I'm still learning about this package. And I've actually asked my head of department if we can start engaging with this package so that we can understand what the student requires, so we're doing the right things right with the student. So that we can now provide the student with this high performance education, and we can also track student performance at the same time. So these are some of the considerations between AI and big data, and we have to move away from our conversations only about ChatGPT. Those were conversations that were last year's conversations. Now we need to move away into curriculum understanding, student performance, and the characteristics that engage this curriculum development. And I was very pleased to see Anissa talking about those as well. And we also need to find out how can we use this information to tailor make curriculums for our students. Because I know in the classes that I teach that there's so many different levels and of understanding. And if we could now engage with some form of AI to tailor make these this teaching in such a way that it is applicable to the different groups of the students in the class, it would make our lives far more easier, and it will also enhance the experience of the student. So this will also give us an understanding of the pedagogy that's required by these students and their prevailing environments, the opportune time for interventions, and so on. So it will also help us to identify where the gaps in performance are, and the know-how for us to act accordingly. And this will also gain a lot of trust between the students and the tutor or the lecturer. So how can we provide the strategy? Firstly, it would give us a very improved decision-making around student performance, which is what we need. And it would provide us with precision learning, where we will able to understand the student's style of learning, the student's emotional state, and we'll be able to understand the student's social background and individualize that content for that student. This package also allows for facial recognition, and so we're able to not only understand what the student is gaining, behind the screen, but also see how the student can engage. Because a lot of times on online platforms, as we're doing now, we cannot really engage with seeing what the student actually looks like and how the student is engaging from a facial perspective. And with this tool, you can actually look at the facial recognition and understand your teaching method and how it's being understood and taken by the student. And it is all part of AI, which is called predictive analysis tool. And this tool gives you or provides you different learning patterns so that you can individualize the teaching and learning for the students based on the narrative that I've given you just now. And for me, it would improve my access to education. It would also help me to determine when and how I should be teaching the student and the timing in which I should be teaching different aspects. Colleagues, this is what I have to share with you, and I'm happy to take any questions and further discussions in the discussion section. Thank you, Prof. Suleiman.
Thank you so much, Shalini. It's been interesting to see how Anis has presented how AI should be used in curriculum, but not forgetting the underlying principles of curriculum. And you're looking at AI enhancing teaching and student engagement, as well as how to be able to get students to have knowledge transfer more effectively. Our next two speakers are going to talk about their own personal experiences with using AI. And Prof. Mustafa is from also China at the same university that Anissa is from. So I'm going to hand over to him to just talk about his experiences with using AI and his students. Thanks, Mustafa.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much, Professor Suleiman, for having us today. My name is Mustafa Özgüven, and I am from the same university as Professor Wahed from Xi'an Jiaotong Liverpool University in China. And actually, today I wanted to talk a little bit about, of course, our topic. Also, I wanted to show you what else you can do with AI through big data. And before I show you my presentation, of course, let me just put that up, if that's okay, really quickly share my screen with you. And I will also do some, okay, let me just put this up for now. Yeah, so before this one, obviously, I'd like to talk a little bit about the importance of what we do through AI. So as you know, personalizing the learning experience has been a challenge for some professors, and it's also been challenging for the students that are actually using AI. For us in XJTLU, for Xi'an Jiaotong Liverpool University, for the past year, we've been integrating AI in our teaching and learning. And as Professor Wahed mentioned earlier, this has been happening, and we are trying to reach up to 90% of our modules or courses to be AI enhanced. And by September, we will reach that, it seems that. So basically, we also want to implement AI system, AI-powered system, where the students can also analyze data in their learning. And also we are doing more, tailored learning activities. We are project-based and problem-based teaching methodologies. This is what we use currently. And as you know, AI can recommend many specific sources. It can recommend articles. It can recommend, interactive simulations for students. And it can actually help them it can show students how they can learn, like throughout their learning experiences, what else they can do to meet the expectations of the professors.
Sorry,
So,
Mustafa.
yes.
Are you presenting slides? Because your screen is a bit frozen and it shows the
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So I'm not too sure if you want to
wasn't-
stop sharing and
I
start
wasn't
again.
sure. Okay. Is it
Okay,
okay now?
I can see it if you want to put it into slide mode.
Okay. Is it under the slide mode, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's not in slide mode at the moment.
Okay. Let me just, was I sharing the whole screen or it was just a,
Mustafa, if I may, just put it on slideshow. It's not a slideshow at all. So
It's not
I
a
can see your,
slideshow.
we can see your PPT, just put it on slideshow.
Okay.
The glass
Yeah, that's the
bottom
one.
champagne.
Good.
Oh, this one.
That's
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't get there yet. I will show that
Oh,
later.
okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
A little
Okay.
bit more. Yeah, I got you. Yeah. I'll do that later. Just so basically, all right, let me just get back. Sorry about that. So also let me just say, for students' performance, we said, for example, what we do right now in one of our classes, although in XJTLU, we do not have many examinations. Different departments have different requirements for the examinations. However, we currently use more assessments, case studies, actually real-world challenges for students to go and explore. And we have group discussions about that. So actually, the AI can also ensure students is challenged in an appropriate level. So for teachers, it's actually a great way to implement and identify the areas where students may need additional support and tailor their teaching accordingly to accommodate those students who may be in need. And also for the assessments, for those who are actually using testing methodologies, so like testing in your classes, the AI can use different algorithms to analyze the students' responses, again, for their initial questions. So you can use it in a way that where a question is presented to student, and if the student was not able to answer it correctly, you can program it. Actually, you can, as Anissa was mentioning earlier in her PPT, to prompt it so that the students can get a little bit easier questions. So it can actually encourage them. I think for me, in my classes, encouraging the students are the most important for their engagement. So by using certain technologies, ChatGPT is one of them, and using data analysis, big data is another, it really helps students to be more active in the classroom. And we can also assess the students' proficiency in the subject more efficiently than the traditional methods that we've been using in previous years. However, also, let's just see, this also has some advantages and disadvantages using the AI. Obviously, we know that AI can personalize learning experiences, yeah? And you can make students more engaging and effective. However, it can also cause some issues. For example, like the implementation of AI in education currently could be costly for some universities or some professors, and it may also require a lot of investment, right? And you need to integrate this into your modules, into your courses. And there's another issue that came up recently. Everybody's talking about it, the privacy concerns, as AI in education is costly, but AI is also collecting and analyzing large amount of data and student data. So how can we keep this more secure? So in XJTLU, we are working on this currently, and we have implemented several ways to secure the data through our Shipu GPT that we had Professor Wahed mentioned earlier. And of course, how educators, some of the educators can be more resistant in adapting the AI into their courses, which it could be, difficult for them, and that's why we are providing training and such webinars as we are right now, and discussing these, how to make it easier for students, and so they can be, or for teachers especially, so they can adapt to it easily. But again, there are more advantages than disadvantages for the using of AI, which can ensure that the educational materials are current and accurate. You can ask AI, obviously, to provide the most recent data. But there's one more new thing coming up right now, how we implement AI with the big data. And this is what I wanted to show you on the PPT. I'm just going to take a few minutes to show a few slides to explain what we currently do right now in Xi'an Liverpool University. And this is actually one of my projects that I have been working on for several years. It's been about 2.5 years right now. So let me just move my screen here, 1 second. Okay, here we go. So this is the PPT that my colleagues earlier mentioned that I should put on the slide mode. Yes, so basically, let me just go to the next page. So how we are empowering students and how we are using data and AI to empower students. So for us, I'm teaching entrepreneurship and education. I'm a professor of practice, so I do come from a corporate background, and I've been teaching for many, many years. But for XJTLE, I have been teaching for more than nearly 3 years now. And I noticed for our students, as we are an entrepreneur college, entrepreneurship and innovation is a big thing for us. We use different technologies, different methods to reach our students and teach our students, as well as we are also encouraging our faculty members to do the same. So with the Data Fusion Studio and Consulting, this is my project that I've been working on, as I mentioned. We use basically data to analyze the industries, and we do data mining as well. So where students can be industry partners, and the industry can partner with us to basically solve their real world challenges, the real world problems, where the students can also use this in their assessments. Yeah, so because we are not just teaching them theory, we want them to have hands-on experience. So this is where we said we are facilitating student development and industry consultancy through AI and big data. So through the big data, we can also, with the help of AI, of course, students can collaborate with industry partners and identify those key challenges. So this way they will be more marketable. And we want our students to be actually, I hope I'm not really diverting from the original subject, but I wanted to say the importance of AI in education and where it can lead. So I'm perhaps talking a little bit of future for the student, not the current thing, but you need to see the big picture, right? This is a holistic view that we are looking into. And we want our students to be more employable. And this is what we are facing right now in all around the world, the challenges of employability. And yes, students can be employable. However, we want them to actually be someone, right? Be a manager, be not just a junior manager. We want them to be manager and grow. So it can also help with research and analysis. I mean, using data-driven methodologies, students, not only students, but also the professors can analyze data and actually get insights from the industry. And this will be more practical. And of course, this can all be publishable in the industry magazines or even academic journals. And it can really help students. So that's what I believe, including data and big data and AI, using the AI technologies and big data, we can really change the future for the students and the engagement of the students in the classroom. And another thing is that we mentioned, Professor Wahed mentioned earlier, we are using integrated projects in our university. So basically we are collaborating with the industries, yeah? And those industries are currently lining up with us to work with us to bring in more resources, and we are going to be sharing also resources with them. So I will have 1 more minute, and then I will stop my presentation. So basically, we are trying to unlock the innovation through transforming through the technopreneurship. So we are basically giving students to their way of entrepreneurship. We are teaching them. We are not, I cannot say teach. I do not like the word teach entrepreneurship. Guide them through their entrepreneurial journey, and through the big data, by using AI technologies and big data to analyze and forecast what the future may bring for them, so they can make more informed decisions, and they can be more valuable to those companies who wants to hire them or work with them. Work with them meaning because they do create companies, they are their own, they create companies, entrepreneurial journey. Or some of our students do not want to create companies. That's totally fine. So they will go into something we call entrepreneurship track or corporate entrepreneurship track, where they can also excel and apply what they have learned in the classroom. And so by utilizing data analytics, we can do many things, and we are doing it already. So we collect data, gather data from different sources around the world, as well as we are mining data. So where the future generations can also use, and our professors can also use for their research purposes, and integrate this all through the power of AI and big data. And last but not least, as you know, these two, right? One is a red ocean, another one's a blue ocean. Now, this is very popular in the business world, red ocean versus blue ocean. In the red ocean, we do have a lot of competitors, whereas in blue ocean, it's a paradise, less competitors. There's so many opportunities. But we should also implement this idea in the education, yeah, the learning and teaching, where we don't want to be stuck behind where those traditional methods. We need to integrate new models into our learning and teaching, and also innovate different ways to identify the actual real world problems, right? Textbooks, I use very little or none in my classroom, to be honest with you. I throw a textbook away and I tell them, please do read it in your own time. So like, read for pleasure if you like to, but when you come to the classroom, let's focus on the learning differently. Let's challenge ourselves. Let's use AI, big data, and make more informed decisions. And I believe this is going to lead to a very positive outcome for them. And as for the professors ourselves, as for the educators, we are also going to be developing ourselves to be a better member of the society in terms of developing ourselves, yeah, for the future. Yeah. So that's all for me at this time. Thank you very much, Professor Suleiman, for having me. And if there are any questions, I would love to answer them, I believe, at the end of the webinar. Yeah.
Thank you, Mustafa.
Thank you.
I will hand over to our very own Dr. Upasana Singh, but I will ask you to start putting your questions in the Q&A, because I do know we're very tight for time for questions and answers. So if I can hand over to the next speaker and ask you all to start putting your questions in Q&A, so that the panelists can also start answering them in case we run out of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fatima. Good morning still to colleagues. Thank you for the invitation to participate in today's webinar. I'm not going to be speaking from my own experience, because I have been a bit distant from teaching over the past few years, but I'm going to share today with you a little bit of preliminary data which we have from a study which we conducted at UKZN. And I'm not going to go into the background or the context, because I think our previous speakers have already enlightened us on the role of AI in higher education. What we do need to understand, though, is that the adoption of artificial intelligence in higher education, what we found in our own experience and with my interaction with colleagues, is that there's a bit of a mix in terms of enthusiasm and skepticism from both the academics in higher education and from management itself. And I think at UKZN, we are seeing this because we don't have any set guidelines in place as yet. So the study that we conducted was a very small basic study, qualitative based. We used the UTAT framework to ground the study. And what we were looking at was university academics' views on the multifaceted nature of artificial intelligence. Specifically, we were looking at the language models that are available, and a lot of it related to ChatGPT because this data was collected when ChatGPT just came or was released for use, public use. And we were trying to see whether academics were already integrating the use of these language models in their curriculum, in their teaching, and in their assessment. So we had a sample of 29 academics. This was selective sampling because we just used the two colleges at which the two researchers were based. It's a South African university, and the data was conducted through an online survey. Open coding, thematic analysis was used. And the reason that we chose qualitative was because we wanted them to express as much as they could about the interaction with some of these technologies. So what we found was that participants identified three primary ways in which artificial intelligence can aid student assessment, and this was from their own experiences. The first was increasing the pace of the frequency of assessments. The second was introducing different forms of assessment, and I would say more specifically, it was about getting students involved in the design of assessments as well, and improving the quality of assessments. Specific uses of ChatGPT included generating and validating multiple choice questions, and this was very interesting because we had one participant who outlined for us how he asked or how he got students in his classroom to generate multiple choice questions that they would like to see in their assessments through the use of ChatGPT. And then the process of taking them through those generated multiple choice questions to see how valid they were, the biases that were coming in through ChatGPT, how accurate the actual data was that was being generated from ChatGPT. So that taking them through that whole process of setting an assessment using multiple choice questions and interrogating the questions that were generated through ChatGPT. Then, of course, for research areas, refining your research topics, and then emphasizing intrinsic motivation. Please note that these are preliminary findings. They have not yet been published. We are still interrogating the data. So some of the challenges that participants noted was that it was very time-consuming to develop accurate prompts. And I think both our earlier speakers spoke about the importance of prompt engineering and how you can generate inaccurate data or data with biases if you don't have the correct prompts. The limitations associated with the generation of higher level formative questions was also a challenge. Some of the tools that were adopted at the early stages by these academics included Azure, OpenAI, and ChatGPT, which were used for drafting, structuring, and assessing student work, though some of the issues with nonsensical content were reported. We had an academic in my own discipline of IS&T who used ChatGPT to assess student work as a preliminary assessment, and then he would refine the assessment based on his own reading of it. He was just trying to do a comparison to see how accurate the assessment of the work was through ChatGPT. Opinions that the participants had on acceptable levels of AI similarity in student submissions were very varied. Most favored 10% or less. Some advocated that we need to adhere to the university policy, and then a few supported higher levels of acceptability for AI similarity based on a case-by-case evaluation. Participants also suggested that the university needs to have more concise and prominent guidelines on the use of AI, specifically with avoiding plagiarism and how you acknowledge AI sources. The approaches to the adoption of the AI tools varied, from some academics using it to advising about proper referencing, some of them using it to guide students on initial idea generation for research, or for various class interactions. And then in some of the cases, there was a call for an outright prohibition due to the risks of, for example, outdated information and plagiarism. The risks were sort of exacerbated by limited familiarity with AI tools and the need for proper training. So webinars like these and having more workshops, I think hands-on workshops on how you can adopt these tools will help to improve how we integrate AI into the curriculum. So relating this study to the topic of this webinar, we find that, for example, the study highlights the importance of ethical guidelines to prevent plagiarism, to ensure proper acknowledgement of AI-generated content in terms of referencing. So this speaks to the broader concept of ethical standards as AI becomes more integrated into higher education. Participants also noted the risks associated with the use of AI, such as generating inaccurate content and the potential for confusion. So once again, this relates to the ethical considerations associated with the use or the adoption of AI. By using AI to generate and validate multiple choice questions or to refine research topics, educators can enhance the depth and the relevance of assessments, ensuring that they accurately reflect student understanding. It can also help to get students involved in the design process of assessments. And so students start accepting those forms of assessments more readily because they're involved in the actual design of it. There was also a clear call for guidelines on how to use these tools ethically and authentically in order to maintain authenticity in students' work. Proper referencing and initial idea generation were two of the points that were highlighted. In terms of integrity, here most participants highlighted the need to ensure that AI usage does not compromise the originality of student contributions. So a cautious approach was a common thread that came through the discussions, which emphasized the importance of developing robust and integrity-focused guidelines on the use of AI. In terms of progressive curriculum, we've spoken about how innovative forms of assessment have emerged through the use of AI, contributing towards a more progressive curriculum. And we can see that AI supports the evolution of educational practices. And probably a last point to add was the concept of intrinsic motivation over extrinsic rewards aligns more with progressive education and progressive curriculum design. And this shift then encourages students to engage more deeply with the learning material, fostering a more meaningful educational experience for the students. Therefore, they have more intrinsic rewards than just simply a mark at the end of the day, which is an extrinsic reward. So in conclusion, I believe that this is an ongoing discourse. We need to understand the practical applications of AI, the potential benefits, the ethical, the authenticity and integrity challenges associated, and all of these need to be navigated. There's a clear need for guidelines and policies to harness the potential of artificial intelligence while also safeguarding our educational values, aligning with the broader objectives of a progressive curriculum that can leverage technology more responsibly. And I think as our previous speaker just indicated, it's all about giving our students that experience to work with artificial intelligence before they go out into the workplace, because it is something that they are going to integrate with and interact with in the work environment. So do they know how to interpret what is being generated by the artificial intelligence tool in terms of being able to evaluate biases, being able to ensure that what is being generated or evaluate what is being generated to see that it is true and real data that they can actually use to base their decisions on. Thank you, Fatima. I just rushed through because I know you're short for time.
Thank you so much, Upasana, but that was so brilliant because it actually brought through everything that we were discussing about in this webinar. I'd ask my panelists to please put their cameras on as well. We're running out of time. I do know there's questions in Q&A. And I will ask you that if you have a burning question as a participant, if you would raise your hand so we could unmute you. But I think that what I've taken away, and I know some people have put some messages in the chat about that, but what I've taken away from today's session is that we cannot have a closed view of AI. And that having its use in curriculum, having principles and guidelines about its ethical use and how you actually reward students, and that is looking at it in a microcosm. And I think Mustafa and Anisa raised this as well as Shannon and Upsana, in the sense that AI is increasingly being used in the workforce. So for example, there are now AI tools that look at radiology specimens and can then generate what the outcome of a radiology specimen is, so the more you use it, the more it's going to tell you. So we have to now incorporate AI in such a way that students are comfortable about using it, but can apply it in practice and can understand what the output of an AI is in practice as well. So while we're teaching them about how to then look at an output from a ChatGPT or any of the AI bots, we're actually teaching them the critical appraisal skills of how to then apply it in their workforce. So if all of you had to give one key message to an academic and one key message to a student, what would that be? And I will start with Upasana and go backwards, because you all had and finish with Anisa. So we'll go in reverse order. Upasana, what would you say for an academic that's now struggling with how to incorporate AI in education? And what would you say to a student who has to use it because it's going to feature in their workforce eventually?
I think for an academic, I think we have to be brave enough to experiment. If you're not going to experiment, you're not going to realize the potential that AI has to offer. You're also not going to be able to understand the challenges associated with the use of AI. And I think for students, it's important for them to realize the importance of AI in their day-to-day lives. So by us giving them the exposure to AI in the educational environment, they'll be able to apply their learnings to any other form of AI that they use, whether it be an AI-operated parking ticket machine, or whether it be an actual decision-making tool that they're using in the workplace. They need to have that interaction, and we can provide that interaction for them by integrating it into our teaching, learning, and our curriculum.
And do you think our students need to be more vocal about how we can actually incorporate it, so they actually help us and guide us with sort of how we can incorporate it into curriculum and how we can use it in assessments as well? Because that's the critical thing, at the end of the day. We have to be clear that they're going to be using it and we can't punish them for it, but how do we then use it to assess their critical appraisal skills rather than, their regurgitation skills?
So I think that engagement is very important. I'm just going to cite a very quick example. We had an honors lecturer recently who was just horrified. He has a test bank of 300 MCQs. And he, gave his students a certain period of time to answer a set number of questions, which was supposed to be randomly generated. And he had this extremely high pass rate. And he said, this cannot be possible. How are students doing this? And we all tried to understand or find ways in which, students could have cheated the system. Obviously, it's a non-controlled environment because it's an online course, and there's no proctoring, formal proctoring yet. So for me, I would engage with that group of students and say, okay, listen, there's not going to be any penalization for you, or maybe after the results have been released, but probably do a focus group with them to say, okay, how did you find this assessment? Did you happen to use any types of tools to assist you in this assessment? Because we're not going to be able to figure out how students are doing these things or how they're cheating. So if we don't have proctoring and we don't have control test environments, we're not going to be able to see the reality of the AI tools being available to them in an assessment environment.
Thanks, Upasana. Mustafa, I know you went off screen, but is there anything that you want to add for an academic and a student?
Yes, as for the academics, it's definitely, it's inevitable. You have to use it in your classrooms. I know it can be challenging in the beginning, but you will see the fruits later on. And as for the students, it can really help the students to identify areas that they know it's there in their head, right? But it just somehow doesn't come out. So it can really help them to discover those ideas by just writing in short. I mean, I'm just talking about ChatGPT right now. Just throw some ideas, dump some ideas in the ChatGPT and see what it can create and see if those ideas actually match with what they already know. And it can also provide opportunities for them to explore new areas, that things that they didn't even discover before. As for the entrepreneurship or corporate entrepreneurship, let's say, and employability, they can also see more variety of the answers through using ChatGPT. But like I said before in my short presentation, well, kind of long, that using the big data with the power of AI can be really, really powerful for them, for their future jobs, and to get that CV, make that CV more valuable when they apply to the company. So they don't start from the bottom level. They are at least somewhere, like below the middle level. Yeah.
Thanks.
So we don't want to see entry level. Thank you.
Thanks, Mustafa. Shalini.
Thanks, Prof. What I wanted to say, the other two speakers had already said it, because I just wanted to say that both the lecturer and the student shouldn't be overwhelmed with it. And they just need to play around with it and they'll see how useful it is. So my take-home message for them would be in terms of refining the prompt, because the more you refine, the better your output, the more the learning, and the more cutting edge you're going to become. Thank you,
Thank
Prof.
you, Shalini. Anisa, final words.
I think Shalini took my words away. It's prompt engineering. So be resilient, be creative, and let's evolve and let's experiment. Something Opsana said. As an education developer, I'm really excited. I see loads of questions around assessment, rubrics, about policy. These are the type of questions that we need to embrace. And I would like to say, take the student as partners in your project and develop those assessment rubrics with the students. Take the student as part of the curriculum, discuss the curriculum as part of the way we're thinking outside the box. It's not your traditional curriculum. It's evolving. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I know that there's lots more, and there've been some great participation in the questions and in the chat as well from our participants. It's unfortunate that we've run out of time because I've got about 7 minutes over and I've got 3 minutes left to just say thank you very much. This recording will be available on the UKZN YouTube section. If you have any questions, please, you have my email or Marianne, send it through. I will make sure you get in touch with Anisa, Mustafa, Shalini, or Upasana if there's anything that needs to be done. And I think one of the things we need to be able to tell management is there needs to be a set of resources that are shared regarding the use of AIs, so that academics can start thinking about policies, thinking about engagement, thinking about how themselves can use it so that they can then try and be one step ahead of the students. I don't think we'll ever get there because they're much more digitally advanced, but we can try and actually match them in a way. Thank you all to my panelists for being here today, and thank you for the participants for spending this time with us. Have a good day, and we'll hopefully have a follow-up session soon. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.